5 seconds to go. Start. Now it is economic dimensions are there staring you in the face, and the most prominent is Atmanirbhar Bharat. If you are Bharat, you have to be Atmanirbhar, and if you are Atmanirbhar, you will be Bharat. So I say this at the premier gathering, premier organization of the producers of this country, that if we are heading towards Viksit Bharat, that Viksit Bharat has to be an Atmanirbhar Bharat. It has to be a Bharat where we will engage with the world confidently, but not a Bharat where we will engage at the world at the cost of our people. I think that to me is actually a conceptual basis of what Bharat is about and what Atmanirbhar Bharat is about. Now, this has found expressions in a variety of ways. I mean, many of you know about production linked incentives. You know about vocal for local, and I can tell you each one of these you know. If you look at vocal for local, these are very powerful motivational campaigns, and I can see it actually translating into people's choices. You know, when I look at what all of us give each other in Diwali, you know, it is not just the diyas. You can actually see the character of what we give to each other has changed in the last few years. We have started discovering, you know, and so I actually flag your attention to the Vishwakarma program, that if we have a tradition of artisans, you know, if there are things which our ancestors have produced, these are, you know, skills and crafts that they have nurtured for centuries. It is part of our identity. If we do not support vocal for local, if we do not support our Vishwakarmas, if we are not looking at Atmanirbhar Bharat, if we are not believers in Make in India, then it is not just Viksit Bharat, it is actually Bharat itself which is at stake, because then we start forgetting who we are as a people. So, being a people is, you know, it is not just an existential issue. Being a people is very much also there is a thought process, there is a mindset, there is a constant self reflection among us collectively. So, today I would say for me, the Bharat effort would mean how do we boost domestic production? How do we support domestic producers? How do we increase domestic demand? And as I said, how do we create our own supply chains at home in a manner in which many other countries have done? And I fully recognize this is not something which is easy, because I mean there are costs involved, there are skills involved, there are technologies involved, and yet for all the difficulties, it must be a prime objective together, both of the government and of industry. The second facet of Bharat is the political part, because there is a certain pride in being Bharat. There is a certain demeanor in being Bharat. So, one part of being Bharat is also learning to stand up. So, if others tell you that you should not be doing it, I am not saying, therefore, you should do it, but I am saying we should reflect on it, and if it is in our interest, we should do it. Our choices, you know, diplomacy, international relations, good ties, friendship, are not about giving other people a say in your choice. Our choice must be our choice, however difficult it is. I am not a rash person. I would say we need to calculate, we need to strategize. Sometimes we need to soften at times. That is something which my business also does. But at the end of the day, there will be moments, and you all know we have had one or two of these recently, that when it came to our energy purchases, our national choices and national interests were supposed to be subservient to the political correctness of other countries who, by the way, had made their own arrangements to soften the blow for themselves. Or I give you a very different example, which is quad, that we were being hustled by a narrative that somehow by working with three other countries, this is something which is making somebody else uncomfortable. Well, if somebody else is uncomfortable, that is their problem. So, at the end of the day, we have to do what we have to do. However difficult that is, however tough that is, and it is that confidence of being able to exercise choice after choice that will define us as Bharat. It could even be what happens at the border. Again, you all know, I mean, last 3 years we have had an exceptionally difficult time in terms of the challenges on our northern borders. But even though this happened in the middle of COVID, yet we responded very resolutely, very determinedly, and to date we still remain deployed in whatever manner is necessary for our national security or even in terms of our own issues. I mean, there is no society which has been more traumatized in the modern era than us when it comes to terrorism. So, putting terrorism on the international map and making sure that it is not like in the world, sometimes you feel terrorism in some geographies have a certain importance, in other geographies they do not, because who shapes the narrative assigns a certain weight to geographies. So, how do you put terrorism? Now, if you looked, I actually had the last few COPs. The most powerful ideas when it comes to climate action and climate justice are actually coming out of India. The solar initiative came out of India. The idea of a sustainable lifestyle came out of India. The idea of a disaster resilient infrastructure came out of India, or the idea of a larger international grid, a one world, one grid. So, how do you actually put your ideas, shape the outcomes, determine the narratives? This is also part of being Bharat. There is a cultural side where our heritage, our traditions, our practices, we would like that to be appreciated the world over. You have seen already in the last decade how extensively and how I would say, I mean, it is really been really a joy to behold how yoga has been taken up across the world. Now, it did not happen by itself. It happened because the Prime Minister had this sense of making this a global bonding cutting across cultures, regions, and nationalities. Similarly, wellness practices Ayurveda. How do we actually spread our tradition? The fact that we actually have today a global center, WHO Global Center of Excellence for Traditional Medicine in India. How do we spread this across the world? So, because again, as I said, practices like yoga or knowledge like Ayurveda, these are all inheritances we have, and we have a collective duty to pass it on. But the other part of it is also, I would say, our own heritage both at home and abroad, that when we look today at something which is a very standard global practice, okay, stop.